Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, Boris Johnson, while abroad, is still making all the headlines. Boris Johnson has stated that if Vladimir Putin was a woman, a very ugly woman, he would have not invaded the Ukraine. That's sort of an argument from like a 10-year-old child. Right, that's a child's argument. You wouldn't have invaded if you're a bloody woman. I was just thinking, yeah, how many women have started wars? I can only think of like Thatcher, but then we have to say, did Thatcher start the war, or did she just go over there and just finish things off? Because the Falkland Islands or the Malvinas Islands, right, was occupied by the Argentinians, right? Which it's just off their coast, so it's thousands of miles away from us. But anyway, that's for another day. But I'm just trying to think of any other women that have actually started any wars in the world anyway. I'm just trying to think of any. Do you know what I mean? If you know any, please send them into me so I can so I can answer this question, because I just can't think of any apart from obviously Thatcher, and it's questionable whether or not she started the Falklands War. And then obviously we've got one of the Tory MPs have broken ranks over abortion. It's come right here now, right, where they're saying, you know what, the women don't have the right, right, to determine what happens to their own bodies. A lot of Tories, there's a lot of Tories, that will talk like that. But no, considering just a couple of weeks ago, right, when one of the archbishops was talking, they said that those religious nuts need to keep their hell out of politics. And all of a sudden, right, they're starting to break ranks now. Because this was one of them in that something Cougar or something like that. His name is, right. But he broke ranks. He's one of the first ones to do it, right. Well, for now anyway. Right, obviously, after we've just had that big ruling in America, so he's one of the first ones to come out and do it. So we're going to have to see, right, how much more of them just really start to break ranks, because we've got some real religious nutters up in our House of Parliament as well, and the House of Lords, right? But because we this is something that hasn't really needed to be discussed in this country for a long time, right? But obviously now what's happened in America, it can come back on the table. So we're going to have to see how many of them actually break ranks and come out, because obviously this is something they're not going to want. Especially when it comes to Tory high command, they're not going to want a load of Tories to start coming out with any type of craziness about abortion, right? I'm sure it was one of the Lib Dem leaders. I'm sure that done for him religious, his really strong religious beliefs, because this country, they say, oh, we're a religious country, but the minute, right, you actually do become start bringing religion into into a part of politics what they don't like. And you know what? You know what? And abortion is one of those subjects. I mean, you start bringing that into it, right? And there's going to be only, religion shouldn't be in politics, So, but I think that situation is going to turn. It's got the opportunity to turn really ugly in this country. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. And a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. We're going to start in America with the vicious attack on America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, was viciously attacked in it was a shop mart. It's called a shop mart or something like that, where Rudy Giuliani was viciously attacked when a man came up to him and tapped him on the back. Right, just tapped him on the back. Right, and it was, when I say it was just a simple. Rudy Giuliani didn't, he didn't move, right? But then the guy tapped him on the back, and then he walked round, right, because Rudy was surrounded. There was a few people around him, so the guy walked round. He must have said to him, "You're a scumbag," right? At which stage, right, Rudy then decided he was going to fake the whole thing, right? So now he's gone into the media and onto social media, and he said, "Oh, he was hit in the back. It was like a boulder to his back. It could have been a truck that hit him in the back." He said, he said, "He hit me so hard, I took a couple of steps forward." Right? And when you see, unfortunately for Rudy, yeah, this whole thing is on video. But the police have taken the guy and charged the guy, so there's going to be there's going to be a court case out of this. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, Rudy, yeah, is looking for sympathy from people. But I mean, this is not going to get this is not going to get him in his well. It might get him a bit of sympathy with the. I'm not sure with the MAGA crowd, because the MAGA crowd probably think he's an idiot as well. Especially in the way how this fool has been used by Donald Trump. Donald Trump, yeah, people like Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, yeah, they will ruin your career. When you're around those type of people, they're so toxic. They're so toxic, right, that they will ruin your career. Right, especially if if you stay around them, right? Because if you look in the Tory party now, right, all of the people who are closest to Boris Johnson, right, people are looking at them and saying, you know what, none of them can actually be in charge, because they're tainted. They're tainted by him, and that's the same thing that's happened with all those politicians that was around Donald Trump. And Rudy Giuliani, like the worst one, because Rudy was such a loved person. Right, and all of a sudden now he's one of America's most hated people. People hate Rudy with a passion. And we're going to stay in America, yeah, with the January 6th committee. Yesterday was completely devastating. Yesterday, yeah, was an absolute, right, insight, right, into the life of Donald Trump, right, who is one crazy fool who is off key, right? There's something seriously wrong with this man. The man, right, on January the 6th, the man tried to grab hold of the steering wheel of the beast. Right, the beast, right? That car. That it's not even a car, right? It's a fucking, it's a beast. But that thing's like a mini tank, right? And Donald Trump, right? Well, he choked out, right? He choked out, right? The security, his the security guy there who's been there, right, trying to stop people from trying to kill him. Donald Trump tried to choke this fool out, right? Grab hold of the steering wheel, right? Later on, throw his dinner at the wall, right? With all ketchup going down the wall after he threw his dinner. Listen, right? Donald Trump, yeah, has serious mental health issues, which is something that people have always said, right? Now, he always says he's just a genius. I'm sure he was. I'm a genius. I'm like, highly educated. He knows words, all the best words. Seriously, Donald Trump has got real problems in his life. In his life, the man's got real problems, right? Because for you to be right, that out of control, because the way how, because this woman who went up, Cassidy's, I can't remember what her name is, something Cassidy, I can't remember what her name is, but she's only about 20, 24, 25, I'm sure, right? But obviously she's working in the White House, right? She's she, luckily for her, she got some pretty high up positions as aides, to congressmen or to senators, and she's been around there a few years, right? And she's worked with several different Republicans, right? She was MAGA herself, right? Which is not a good thing, right? But most of these people are Donald Trump's supporters. These people all voted for him, and the way how they have described Donald Trump as just, absolute crazy. Donald Trump wanted, right, armed, or he wanted armed people to go up to the Capitol, right? It's only just now we're actually finding out, right, that there was guys marching up to the Capitol building with AR-15s, and the police took them off of them, Right, there was, the amount of, because they had to go through obviously like metal detection, right, to get past a certain part, right, and Donald Trump tried to get them to take the metal detectors down so that armed people could go to the Capitol, right, and now, it was said to him, well, these people are armed, and he said, well, they're not here to hurt me, right? So if they're going in there to go and to go and get the vice president, right? So those people, yeah, to get to the vice president, you've got to kill a lot of people to get to the vice president, right? Because you've got to kill, you're going to have to kill many police officers first of all, right? And then you're going to have to kill, his security, right? So that would be the feds, his security, and then his close personal security as well, right? Because remember they've got remember whether when you see the president or the vice president, yeah, you've probably got 4 or 5 doors to get through. So you've got some outer security, which are all feds as well. They're not police officers. The police officers are right out the front. So you've got to get past all of them. So do you imagine how much people that Donald Trump was actually sending these people into murder, right? So he could get to the vice president to stop him, right, from making the count. Imagine how much people these guys have actually got to murder. They've got to murder so many people, right? And all of those people who they've got to murder, right, are all like police officers or security services for the president or the vice president. Those are the people who these guys have got to go and murder. And there's a lot of them they've got to go and murder. You're talking about over 200 people that they'd have to go and murder to get to the vice president. You can't just get to the vice president just like that, right? Even though he was, they had him locked down in a room underneath the Senate, but you wouldn't be able to. There's still going to be so much people in front to get to him. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, plus with those weapons, you're talking about you've got to get past the police first of all. So you're going to have to murder police officers because you're going to start shooting the police officers. Police officers start shooting back at you. Police. If you've got a gun, they've got a gun. People are shooting, then everybody's going to be shooting. So this is what Donald Trump. Right? And when when you hear all of this and you see people, that people are still backing this because this is some serious criminality. The things what she reveals yesterday, and if she's lying, right, then the Secret Service, right, can come out and say that she's lying, because I think the Secret Service is going to be up very, very soon giving evidence. So you're obviously going to have, you could obviously have the driver, right, of the beast who had his hand on the steering wheel at the time, because I think the guy from the Secret Service, one of the other guys from the Secret Service said, Mr. President, you need to take your hands off the steering wheel, right? Could you imagine having to say that to the president, right? And then the president choke you the hell out. Right? So, that America's got some real problems. They've got some real issues. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but they have some real issues in America, And I have, for the life of me, right, I do not know, right, why this man is not in prison. Because not putting him in prison, right, just says, you know what, this can happen again. I mean, you've had people, you've had, right, people from the army, right, having to get together, right, to tell all of the other departments, all of the other military departments, say, listen, right, if Donald Trump, right, mentions anything to you about nuclear weapons, you make sure you run it through me. This man, right, because they was going to, there's a amendment 25 or something like that they wanted to invoke, right, and that would remove him from the presidency. I think it must have been on probably January the 6th or January the 7th. That's what they was talking about. That's the only reason why he went and stopped. It must be January the 6th when they actually went, and because that's what they went and said to him. They said, listen, if you don't go out, right, and tell these people to stop, right, and make a statement, right, then they're going to, then amendment, I think it's Amendment 25 or something like that. They said we're going to invoke that on you, and you will be removed as president, right? Even though you've only got 15 days left. Right, but even in that 15 days, it was like, this man could do far too much damage, and that's the truth. The 20 men who carried out the vicious attack in the Bataclan all those years ago, right, they're just on trial now. Right? They're going to find out today the verdict, because I think it's just must be just judges, but so they've been on trial, so now the judges are going to come up with a decision as to whether or not they was the people that actually done it. They must be, they must be in some, their shoes must be really, really tight, right? Because obviously they're going to get put underneath the prison. I'm sure some of them have even died. Some of them have been, some of them have gone on trial in their absentia, right? So we'll see how that goes. But I'm sure they're going to be found guilty anyway. Well, there must be a good amount of evidence to So I'm sure I haven't been following that, because I've only just, to be honest, I've only just heard about it, but I didn't even know it was still going on. Nicola Sturgeon has said people have the right to change their minds in a democracy, and because Britain pulled Scotland out, England pulled Scotland out of the EU, right? When they didn't want to be pulled out, even though in 2014, Britain was like, well, if you vote to leave the United Kingdom, right, then you're going to be out of the EU. And Scotland was like, oh, now that is a reason, right, for us to vote no. And the Scots voted no, right, and then 2 years later, Britain voted to pull them out of the EU. And then they think to themselves, well, yes, circumstances have changed, but that doesn't mean that Scotland, should be wanting to pull themselves away from us, even though circumstances have changed, and we told them circumstances wasn't going to change, and we promised them, right, that Boris Johnson would never ever be the Prime Minister. They was promised that. Scotland was promised that. When they was saying, when there was ever talk of Boris Johnson, because it was always a joke thing, really, right? No one ever thought it was serious, especially that, I can say that me and we Sturgeon certainly didn't think it was serious that the people of England would vote in, right, a fool. That's another word for like a clown, like a jester, was a fool that used to work for the Queen or the King at the time. A fool. The Queen was a, bring my fool in, and someone like Boris Johnson would just come in and entertain them. So no one ever thought that this country would vote in a fool. Right? I certainly didn't think so. Right? And but then after the vicious attacks, right, on Jeremy Corbyn, right, even they went as far as to get a report done to brand the Labour Party institutionally racist. It's just like, what? That's all you can say is what, right? How they managed to brand Jeremy Corbyn as racist. Just like, are you fucking serious, right? Someone needed to say to him, listen, is he racist because he objects, right, to white people murdering brown people? Is that why he's racist? That's what someone... Right, but they ran it. Right? I've never known anything like it. Right, you could not make that shit up. Right, that they could get Jeremy Corbyn, right, a man who stood up to the black shirts. Right, and say, oh no, he's racist and Boris Johnson's good. And they really made the people of this country. But you see. This must be penance, what the people of this country is getting now, right? It must be real punishment from... Right? Okay, I'm a bloody atheist, right? But that's not the point, right? I can still use the big guy, right? And say, the big guy's punishing you fools, right? Because of your stupidity. Right, because you were stupid enough, right, to look at Boris Johnson and say, oh, yeah, I like the cut of his jib, even though there's no cut. You know, there's no cut of his jib. There's all jib. And you looked at Jeremy Corbyn and said to you, he's a science teacher and he's a racist. And people was like, oh, if there's one thing that we hate in Great Britain, it's racist. We cannot stand them. I said, but you know that black people think that this is a very racist country, right? Yeah, but we're not talking about us ourselves. We're talking about other people who are racist against white people. Yeah, white people that are racist against white people. We hate them. All right, so you're selective with your racism, then? Yes, we are. Seriously, I don't know. I don't know. But that's the problem, right? Where we Surgeon Studderton is just, you know what? She said October 2023. That's the time that they're going to have a referendum, right? They're going to ask the big question again, and the British government was like, oh no, oh no, questions asked once can't be revisited. But she's already named the date, right? And now she's written to them and said, well, I'm taking permission from you, not asking, I'm taking permission, because now they're in a bit of a bind because if Boris Johnson resists, right, that's only gonna make the vote leave, right, even stronger. Because remember, yeah, this has got nothing to do with economics or whichever way you want to put it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's all about the heart, just like Brexit. All about the heart and the hard ass head what these people have got on their shoulders, right? That's got a racist gene in the brain that's the size of a small stone. And the racist gene is actually bigger than that. It just covers the whole thing. And we have to say R.I.P. to Dame Deborah James, aka the Bowel Babe, who was passed away yesterday at the age of 40. And she highlighted a lot about bowel cancer. So R.I.P. to Dame Deborah. I mean, really beautiful young lady. I mean, only 40 years old. 2 children. Really, real shame. I mean, but in the last few weeks, literally the last few weeks of her life, she made so much, international news, right? So obviously she probably has saved a lot of lives. She raised one hell of a lot of money as well. So say R.I.P. to her. Ghislaine Maxwell got herself 20 years in the pokey, right? She was given a deuce of years, 20, right? Deuce with a 0 on it, right? A score, right? A Roger Moore. That's how Ghislaine, and you think to yourself, this bitch was born so motherfucking rich. So rich. But I can guarantee you that there's people in her life from when she was young that would say to you, you know what, I always knew that she was getting into prison for a long time. Always knew it. People always say that after the event. But no, she 20 years she's got in prison. But because she's already done she's already done, I'm sure she's already done over 3 years in prison, right? And I mean, I think she might try and appeal, right? Which if she does appeal, right, she could well get like a reduced sentence, or she could actually get a new trial because one of the jury members was corrupted in her trial where they lied on their forms, and the judge in this case said, listen, well, it don't really matter. But it took a long time. If it's taken a long time from when she's been convicted to her sentencing. It's been one hell of a long time. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what they was doing behind the scenes in all that time, because normally, right, on a normal basis, like they sentence you within within days or weeks. Certainly within the month. They never leave it for this length of time. So for some reason, that's what's managed to happen to her. She's managed to stretch it out a bit, and she's been in prison for, I just said, over 3 years. So I mean, that right there is like a 6 year sentence already. Do you know what I mean? So I can see like in maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, she could actually be out, right? Under, maybe under house arrest or something like that. Because how the American system works. But American system works a lot different to our system. In America, you could be charged with murder, right, and still be on road, right? Which that I mean, that doesn't really happen in this country. I mean, it's a very, very rare cases. I mean, it has happened, but there's very, very rare cases. I mean, once you get charged with murder, I mean, if you got charged with murder and for some reason, and they had you in, because at first you would be in prison, but then if your case was just prolonged, and just kept on getting prolonged, and it went past a couple of years, then there's a good chance that you could get out on bail in this country. But in America, like this, you could get charged with murder and then be out like a couple, pay some bail money and be out a couple of hours later. Obviously, depending on what status you've got. But their system seems to work really strange like that, because there's just, in this country, there's no way that you'd be riding like bail while you're on a murder charge. Yeah, just especially like where we see people, murders with guns and all that in America. I mean, even as a police officer in this country, if you was on a murder charge, right, you would be in prison. Right? I mean, in America, if you're a police officer on a murder charge, it's very unlikely you're going to be in prison. It's more than likely you're going to be out on bail. Right? Some, might even still be on duty. Right? Some crazy, where they run their shit is really, really crazy. But I'm sure that Ghislaine, right, is going to go to a prison, right, that coming like a hotel. The Met Police have been put into special measures. And what the hell that means, I don't know. But I do know it's been a long time coming, because when you're looking at like Stephen Lawrence, right, and institutionally corrupt, and then you got people like Wayne Cousins, and the Daniel, I think it was Daniel Morgan, isn't it, the one who got murdered, and Dame Cressida Dick just a couple of years ago, wasn't very helpful in the investigation, and he was investigating something into. He was a private eye investigating the links between serious criminals, the police, and the press, and then he was found with an axe in his head in a pub car park. And I believe he was shot too. He was got an axe in his head and shot. And I say, yeah, one would suffice, mate. You only need one. You don't have to make a whole point of the shit. But whoever done it made a real point of it, And and it's just been one of those things that's been covered up for years. So that's one of the reasons why Sadiq Khan decided, actually, right, I have no confidence in this woman. Right? Not that her backside was flat. I don't think that's the reason. Right? I think it's because he said he didn't have no confidence in her. Boris Johnson. No, don't. No. Pencil neck. Let's start it again. Pencil neck, tin Lizzie Truss she was being questioned by a committee, yeah, about over Saudi Arabia and her dealings with the Saudis, because obviously Britain's got to go with their hands held out to all these countries now and beg them for their oil, because obviously we need the energy, they've got the oil, right? So she was being questioned as to how come she's prepared to deal with Saudi Arabia when on one execution day last week they killed 81 people, and they said, well, why are you prepared to do it? They said, well, we have to get our energy from some. I thought, wow, seriously? Yeah, she was just in there, just lying off her head. And then when they said to her, have you questioned them about the human rights, about their human rights issues? And she said, yes, questions have been asked. She said, really? When? She said, well, I have. I said, but she said, but your aide said that you never asked anything about it. And she said, seriously, Liz Truss, right, is a very lucky person. She's lucky to be in the position that she's in, because when you listen to this woman, right, you find that she's an absolute idiot. That's what she is, an absolute idiot. Right, because this woman, right, she's very good at talking, right, but what she's speaking is two male cows in a field, bullocks, a load of. Brexit campaigner Steve Bray has had his equipment taken off of him by the police. In a vicious attack by the police, they went and roughed the man up, right? Because he's the guy who's outside the House of Parliament, right, shouting and screaming about how much of a mistake Brexit has been, right? And obviously, the politicians don't really want him in their face. Well, they want him therefore reminding them, right, of the stupidity of what they've done to this country. Right. So he's there in their face every day doing the same thing. So obviously they've used these new laws, because remember they come up with these new laws about how loud your protest can be and all those type of things. So they've used these new laws to go and shut down Steve Bray and take his take his megaphone and whatever other equipment that he's got there, so he can make a goddamn nuisance of himself. And there's nothing wrong with him being outside, the House of Parliament or Downing Street making a complete nuisance of himself. He should be allowed to do that, right? And the police should not be allowed to stop him from doing that. But the world that this hardline Tory world, right, that we're living in this country, right, says that, what, if you want to complain about something, don't. And certainly don't come and do it anywhere near them, because they don't want to hear it. They want to be able to fuck the country up, right, without anybody being able to say anything to them, right? Because these people, they don't really like to interact with members of the public. And let me tell you, right, even when you're sending politicians messages on Twitter and all them things, the majority of times they're not reading them. A lot of times they're not reading them, right? Who might pick them up? The press might pick up your message that you've sent to the politician, and that's how they might get to hear about it, right? But the politicians, most of them they don't read, right? Because I've heard one of the LBC presenters say that he just said, I don't read messages, and I think to yourself, well, why is it that you think that you have the right to spread your opinion, right, but you're not prepared to at least read people's messages? Not, you don't have to answer them, but at least read their messages to say, well, you know what, this person disagrees with me. But if you're just prepared to say, well, you know what, I would just like to live in my own echo chamber. I don't want to hear what anybody else has to say. Right? If that, and that is what the right wing the right wing world is about. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's about. So it's a nasty, vicious, racist, horrible, misogynistic, right, anti-Semitic, right, Islamophobic, bigoted, xenophobic place. That, right, is what the right wing always bring. That's what they always bring. UK food standards has hit an all-time low after Brexit, of course, because now they can't, they're having problems, right, finding out, right, the origins of certain foods that's coming in. I've heard that there's, like Donald Trump, I've heard, right, that there are, right, van loads of pork coming into the country, right, in the back of transit vans. Already, yeah, they're probably using an old shaped transit. It's like, and not even no wood lining, right? Just the same metal, right? Just thrown onto the floor with a blanket on it, right? And that's how the meats and that is coming into the country, because obviously, it's difficult, right, to keep standards when you leave an institution like the EU. It's much more difficult in your country to keep standards, because the EU kept real standards and we had to keep to those standards, right? But obviously now that people from all over the EU or whatever can just send stuff straight in here, right, without it actually being checked, right? But sure bloody every single thing that we send, right, into the EU, they're just like, you said you got 1,000 pencils? There's only 998. Where's the other two? Well, what you need to do is go back to Birmingham, Dudley, pick up the two pencils, and then come back. But I'm quite sure, right, that you people, when the racist gene ticked in your head, right, you decided, oh, it's a good idea for us to lose our own freedom of movement. Right? Do you realise, right, that even animals fight the hell, right, not to go in a cage so it doesn't lose its freedom of movement? Which animal do you think to yourself, oh, you know what, I'm a lion, could you capture me and put me in a cage? Right? Instead of me, right, roaming around, having the whole of Africa to roam around, could you catch me and put me in a small cage? So I could lose my freedom of movement. I think the lion's voice is a bit deeper, but I think you get the point. The car industry have asked the government, please lower the cost of energy. We are having problems rotating the wheels. They're having real problems, right? Paying the energy costs, right, to produce the motor vehicles in this country. Because could you imagine running like a steelworks or something like that? Because a lot of that shit runs off gas. Right? So could you imagine, right, having to pay just think of your local fish and chip shop, right? And just think of it as a much, much bigger operation, right? And then double that, right? And then double that shit again, and then you get to where the car makers must be, right? Or people who produce glass, produce glass bottles or something like that, right? Imagine the fucking stress these people must be going through, because a lot of these companies, right, are running up, right, gas bills of over £100,000 a day. Okay, with the amount of gas, with the amount of gas their furnaces are using, so you could imagine, right, what type of money these have gone up to for these type of people. So you've got now, right, the energy costs are spiraling out of control for the car makers, who are begging the government, please, after Brexit, after these racist motherfuckers fucked up the country, please do something for us. So they sent in Tin Lizzie Truss, who made the ultimate claim, right, in the House of Parliament the other day, right, when she was being questioned by Hillary Benn. He's a male. He's not a lady Hillary, because only ladies should really have that name. Because Tony must have hated it. Tony must have looked at him and thought, I hate you, so I'm going to call you Hillary, and held him up like an African. I name you Hillary. So Hillary Benn was questioning him. And he said, well, and he must have said, why the hell, right, are you taking this country down such a dark, fascist route? He didn't say that, but he said words to that effect. But just, a little bit more, right, deeper, the words was that he used, right? And she come out with him and said, it's because she's a patriot. I was like, wow. And then I just thought, something? History tells me that Dr. Johnson said, patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. And Dr. Johnson was a very smart man, because Dr. Johnson, he was the one who wrote the dictionary. And if you know anything about history, you should have seen this in Blackadder, when, because he was played by... I think he was played by Roy Kinnear. I think in Blackadder he was played by Roy Kinnear, and Rowan Atkinson. Oh God, I can't watch Blackadder no more. After I found out that Rowan Atkinson's brother is a UKIP councillor, damn racist motherfucking fool. So I can't watch Rowan Atkinson no more, who's one of the most funniest men in this country. But you should have watched that scene in Blackadder where you see Dr. Johnson, right, explaining the dictionary, right, and Rowan Atkinson's there just coming up with new words while he's written that. Rowan Atkinson is just coming up with complete new words, right, which is really, really funny. But if you could tell me who the Prime Minister was at the time, because I can't remember, I think it would have been, it was one of the Pitts. Like it was either Pitt the Younger or Pitt the Elder. And I'll leave you with that dilemma because I've got to get the hell out of here. I've been on for so bloody long already. This, my friends, is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.